Hey everyone, this is Ryan B with Practical FX Trading. This is your Bitcoin US dollar weekly analysis for January 5th, 2020. Decided to add Bitcoin dollar to the pairs I'll be covering every week just because it is a cryptocurrency, but it's the most popular cryptocurrency. And if I were to use the word stable and cryptocurrency in the same sentence, Bitcoin's probably one of the few that would apply to the adjective of stable. A lot of the other cryptos kind of like turned into nothingness, into dust, into air. So this one, though, is traded. Many markets, you can get many brokers to trade Bitcoin. So I figured it'd be a good chart to cover. All right, so let's dig into it. What I'm starting here with is a monthly chart of Bitcoin dollar. You can see up here is our monthly. And what I've outlined is a support and resistance zone between right around 5,000, so say 5,100, 5,000, to the 6,200 line. And here we see that price back in the summer of 17 kind of had a little bit of a rough time poking through, but once it did, shot up to 20K, came back down on the initial decline and really paused there around the 6,200 mark several times before falling below. Recently, in spring of 2019, price shot back above. Didn't quite get as high, hit about this 14,000 resistance mark. Let's go ahead and put some resistance there. And we can see that price tried to push through, was rejected initial time. The second time, only touched, didn't push through, but then did decline. So what I'm seeing though here is this blue line. This is our 20-month fast moving average. And we see when price either moves away in a bullish form on top of it, what happens? So if we go all the way back here to early 2017, we see price sitting on top of that monthly moving average, eventually moving away from that in a bullish formation all up to 20K. We see when price dropped below this 20-month moving average, we saw a decline all the way down to the 3,000 mark. And now, after price has shot back above it, is sitting on top of it. So we don't really have a trend line here yet. You really need 3 touches to make an official trend line. So that's kind of a tough one here. But let's go ahead and draw a trend line. And let's just look at this. If this was our sloping, very, very slow sloping trend line, we see that this 5,000, 6,200 is becoming kind of a support base, if you will. Previously, price hasn't spent a lot of time below there. So that's the kind of sloping uptrend we're looking at. Let's go ahead and zoom in. I've got a smaller chart, a weekly chart that will show this. So now I'm looking at the weekly, and apologize for all the lines here, but I want to lay out the support and resistance zones. So if we take that trend line I was just outlining, and then we draw a parallel, right? So this is our parallel trend channel right here. We see price several times has either touched and then remained above that line, touched it, remained below. And so think of your trend channels, ascending and descending, as a support and resistance zone moving over time, right? So these charts, nothing just goes straight up and straight down, even though this is pretty similar. Over time, support and resistance zones really roll out in a sloping fashion. That's how we get our trend angles, right? So, and I really want to trust in these low sloping broad trends. So what I'm looking at though, if I focus in, let's go ahead and zoom at what's happening now. I went ahead and laid out the monthly pivot points for Bitcoin dollar in the month of January. And we see prices treading right around the pivot point, 71.4150. Next on tap could be possibly monthly R1 at 78.43. We see that was kind of a minor support zone here for a few weeks. So with this pocket, as long as this ascending triangle keeps filling up, and we see a pop through the top, then our next target would be 85.14, followed by 92.16. And we've seen that Bitcoin's very capable of making those kind of moves in 1 week. Back in October, we saw price go from 73K to 10.5. So it's a little bit over $3,000 in just 1 week. So there's definitely potential, either way, up or down to go that. Now, if price were to fall below this pivot and fall below the monthly support one at 64.70, then my sentiment was going to go bearish. Right now, I'm feeling kind of bullish about this, just because of those moving averages we were looking at in the monthly, and the fact that price has really been kind of being rejected by this support line, right? So here we see price kind of eroded and then fell below. Now price is building up. We see over the last, 6 weeks, price is held above this pivot. The bodies of our candles are closing above this. Now we've got some nice pushback, pushing up. But, will it continue is really the question. Let's go ahead and look at the daily. So this is our daily candles, how it's looking in those ranges. So we're sitting right on top of this trend line right now. And what we could see is price continue up here up to the 78.43 mark, this monthly R1, and just kind of hang out before popping through. Or we could see our next sell-off occur right about the 78 mark. Let's go ahead, though, go back to the weekly, and I want to look at those moving averages again. And let's see what that tells us. So I'm going to go ahead and take these off, these lines, but I'm going to keep our notations, support and resistance there. Okay, let's go ahead and apply our moving average indicators. And what I like to use is three. Use three moving averages, simple moving averages, and then I config them. I want my fast. I like my fast to be in blue, and I put it as a 20 period moving average. And then the next thing I do is I make the next one a 50, and I put that in red. Okay. And then my last one, I'm going to make my slow moving average, or a 200 period moving average. Okay, so what we see happening is, there's a lot of lines now, but what I want to show you is that what we see happening is price, back a while ago, the 20, so this is back in the summer of 19, our fast moving average made a bullish crossover the 50, so the 20 bullish crossover the 50, and now it's looking like these are all converging, and we might see the 50 crossing over the 200, right? Now we see historically when price crosses over, look back here, back to the spring of 19, we see price moving on top of this 200 week moving average, and once we had a successful close above that, price went from about 4K to about 12K. Now, just like that, when price closed below that average, price fell from about 10,000 all the way down to 6,800. But now we can see again that if price holds above this support line, this big support line going back, historically over the last couple of years, and crosses over our long, we could see another potential upswing. So if I'm bullish on Bitcoin, then I'm going to go ahead and look for a return, possibly all the way to this 11,008 mark or the 12,000 area. I'll wait for confirmation, but that could be our next bullish target. And then if we see price fall below this, that's going to put us, let me stretch this out a little bit. We could see price come all the way down here to this 5,000 mark. So, looks like the next big swing for Bitcoin's dead ahead. I'm going to be charting this pair every single week. Okay, so this is the daily. So I take those same moving averages and put them on the daily. What we see is we have price crossing above the 50-day moving average. So the last time that happened, right, we saw prices spike from 9,000 to 10,600. Okay, let's look for another time when that happened. Price here. Now, it does sometimes do like a falsie, right? It'll do like a false little breakout and then shoot back down. We saw here in September of 19. However, many times we see that happen and price goes crazy. We look all the way back here to this March of 17. We see price cross on top of the 50 and then go all the way. Oh, sorry, that's 19. We see back in early spring of 19, price cross this 3,700 mark. Here's our 50-day, right? That's our red line. Price crosses over that, sits on top of it for about a good couple months, and then rockets all the way back up to 14K. So, some interesting signals going on from Bitcoin. I'm going to go ahead and put my stops right below my last lowest low. So if I'm bullish, then I'm putting my stops below the shadow of this last lowest candle at 64.40. And if I'm looking for a short-term target, then we should see price return to this 9,600 area, even possibly up to this 9,100, where price kind of fought and then fell back down for our short-term goals. So in the short term, looks like a lot of upside potential. However, keep your stops tight below 64. So even if you get bumped out, it's not much of a loss. It's be like less than 10%. But if price does go up, you have the potential to gain about 25%. So that's a pretty good deal. All right. Make sure you subscribe to our channel for weekly updates on Bitcoin dollar. Thanks so much.